Okay, I have a presentation for you now on chapters 11, 16, and 17, Symbolism of Sex and Violence. And I decided to include these chapters together, kind of combine them, because having just done the symbolism presentation, we discussed how actions can be just as symbolic as objects. And that is the case when we see violence or sex in a piece of literature. Okay, so Foster talks about the following things. First, when sexual acts occur in a text, the author isn't trying to be gross, or they're not putting it in there just to, make people pay attention. The focus on those types of scenes is going to be the relationship between the two people that are involved. Maybe they're looking at a character's self-worth and how they feel about themselves. Maybe they're just trying to characterize a character, or the act itself is an embodiment of some type of conflict, and etc. So when we see actual sex acts happening, it's not supposed to be there to be like, hee hee hee, oh my goodness, that's so scandalous. It's supposed to be there to help us understand our characters on a deeper level, a conflict on a deeper level, and things like that. Okay, second point. The same can be said when it comes to violence. Violence in literature between characters never occurs accidentally, and it illustrates the same types of things. So basically, when we look at sex and violence, what we have is an opportunity for the author to give us a visual of the relationship that's happening that we can't see. So I don't know if I phrased that very well. Something that we can see that kind of embodies the relationship between the two people, or the conflict, or a person's internal conflict, something like that. It's an outward way that we can kind of see what's happening in somebody's head or heart. Okay, the third bullet is, if an author is trying to suggest something sexual, they'll usually do that symbolically. So, some quick examples. Symbolism of violence in Romeo and Juliet. In Act 1, Scene 1, two servants of the House of Capulet talk about the rape and decapitation of Montague women who they don't even know. So, this isn't actual violence, but the men talk about it in a very joking way, and they're kind of like one-upping each other and who can do the more screwed up stuff to Montague women. And so while it's not actual violence, the dialogue does show us the lack of caring that Capulets have for Montagues, how much they hate them, the extreme hatred between the houses, and the fact that they're talking about raping and cutting off women's heads without a second thought in a very joking way shows us just how little they care for them. Okay, on the sexual symbolism side, we have kind of like a before and after here. In the first bullet, we have Juliet's monologue before Romeo spends the night, and that's filled with sexual metaphors and symbolisms. Things like, I have bought the house of love but yet possessed it. Teach me how to lose a winning match. Things like that. Things that kind of suggest what is going to happen that evening with her new husband, but never actually saying what it is. And then the second bullet, Romeo and Juliet spend the night and consummate their marriage, but nothing sexual happens on stage. So when we actually do have sex happening in the plot, it's downplayed and minimized, and we don't see anything about it. It's just kind of hinted at. So, important to remember in summary of these chapters that can be a little bit awkward. Basically, sex and violence are tools to outwardly show abstract concepts like relationships, emotional states, somebody's characterization, and so on and so forth. It's not there to be like scandalous, but it is there to help us understand what the meaning is. It's a tool to illustrate something that maybe we wouldn't be able to see without this outward showing. And secondly, when you encounter these types of things in a text, you have to ask yourself, what is added by having this scene included? Okay, and what am I learning about the characters involved in this situation and the dynamics and the relationships between them? Alright, so hopefully you survived this little awkward set of chapters, and stay tuned, a couple more videos to go.